Women are checking out men all the time, and women have all sorts of tricks for doing that. They might be provocative, for example, because they want to test a man to see if he can control his temper, and no one likes to talk about that, but any smart woman is going to do that because she wants someone who has the capacity for aggression, but she wants someone who can control it because a man will be provoked by children, and if he can't control his temper, then he's going to be aggressive. She has to check that out, and you don't check that out by having a formal conversation. You check that out the same way children check out their parents, which is by harassing them and seeing what happens. And then men check women out. So maybe one of the things a man wants to do if he's going to commit to a long-term relationship is he wants to find out, well, does this woman have what it takes to actually commit to a long-term relationship? And what that means in part is that he has to know that she's capable of controlling her impulsive desires, right? Because otherwise she's going to stray. And that's actually a worse problem for men than it is for women. You can tell a woman has control over her impulses if she can say no. I mean, it's a way of testing. So imagine that you're a young guy with plenty to offer and you're a hot young woman and you meet and you're pretty attracted to each other. Now, both of you are going to fall under the sway of short-term temptation, obviously. Now, the question is, are both of you or either of you capable of being mature in your regard for your iterated future self and the potential of a long-term relationship? And the way the man checks that out is by seeing if the girl will say no. And maybe he checks that even harder because he does everything he can to seduce her and she still says no. And it works and he knows she's interested and she still says no. Well, then he can conclude that she's capable of keeping her pants on. And that's actually something that you need to conclude if you're going to commit to a long-term partnership, obviously, on the male front, because you want to be assured of paternity. And so, these are very intense games that men and women play with each other, and they're no holds barred games because everything's at stake. But again, it devolves down to this issue of being able to say no, even under intense temptation and provocation. I don't know how it is that young women can be taught that the most potent weapon they have is their ability to say no. And I don't think there's anything more attractive to a man than a sophisticated woman who knows how to say no. That's top of the stack as far as men are concerned. They'll do everything to test the thickness of that boundary. If you have nothing else to offer at all but immediate sexual access, that might be your only game. But if you have anything at all to offer, and that is what you offer, you're actually going to be thrown out of the mating game really quickly because the guys, they'll just be turned off and they won't call you back. You'll get, what do they call that? Ghosted, like in no time flat. And the girls might ask, well, I gave the guy what he wanted. Why didn't he call me? And the answer is no, you gave his impulsive libido what it wanted, and that's what you established a relationship with, but you completely sacrificed any possibility at all of being attractive to his more mature and potentially long-term productive and sophisticated self. You make yourself attractive to that by saying, not on your life, joker. I'm taking myself too seriously for that and my future children and even our future relationship. So imagine that you have an attractive girl and a variety of relatively high status men are chasing her. Now you might ask, well, how do they evaluate her status? They evaluate her status by her ability to say no. So imagine, a high status person offers himself or herself to you. If you're of lower status, you're going to say yes right away. But one marker of higher status is, well, no, I don't need what you're selling. Yeah, but what I'm selling is great. Yeah, but I have so many offers that I'm not inclined to take your offer because I have options. It's voluntary no on the part of women that signals their status. And so I don't think young women know this at all because they want to know how to compete with men, let's say in the power game. That's a tough question because women are smaller and they're not as physically powerful and economic prowess isn't as attractive to them and it doesn't make them more viable on a mating market. So the whole game that women are playing is way different than the game men is playing. So you might say, well, how do women equalize the battle? And I think a huge part of that is by reserving to themselves the right to say no. People are stumbling towards this realization even on the radical leftist front, because they keep saying no means no. Yeah, I wish it was that clear, but at a drunken frat party, what constitutes no is not self-evident, but a clear no on the part of a woman. And I also think that there's every reason to think and plenty of evidence that that's also one of the things that makes women desirable in the eyes of men, especially if the men might be enticed into pursuing a long-term mating strategy. They'll push on women and see, well, will you say yes right away? And if the answer is yes, especially true for high status men, if the answer is immediately yes, then the guy assumes your status really isn't that high. You can't say no to me. But if the woman says no, even to you, the guy thinks, oh, well, even though I have everything to offer that I have to offer, she's just not falling over. Maybe there's something there that requires further exploration. And you even see this in female pornography. It's so interesting because the classic female pornographic story is, there's this extremely attractive, highly productive man who's got a real capacity for aggression. He's a pirate or a surgeon or a werewolf or a vampire or a billionaire. Those are the fundamental female pornographic tropes. And he has women at his disposal. But this woman is shielded off from him, and they dance around each other for a long time, which essentially means that she's saying no. And he's finally enticed into a relationship with her where he sacrifices all, his access to all other women. And then they have hot, steamy sex. And so, most of female pornography is extended foreplay. And that's this romantic dance of no, followed by a very spectacular consummation. And that certainly mirrors the optimal female reproductive pathway, obviously, because otherwise it wouldn't be the hottest pornographic fantasy. But it's based in reality. And so I don't know how it is that you communicate to young women that the most potent tool they have in their armament with regard to status, with regard to being taken seriously, is their ability and willingness to say
no.